What is going on, gunfighters? I want to cover a menagerie of topics today, from baby mouse calibers, my thoughts on those, my thoughts on modern wheel guns for carry today, thoughts on SHOT Show. That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, the right way with God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world firsthand experience. Military, law enforcement, private security, contracting, competition shooting, hunting, guiding, experience. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. On that today, going to be a lot of my opinions in this episode. I still want to keep biblical Judeo-Christian values, and that, I'm not going to use any blasphemy. I'm not going to use any unnecessary, disgusting language or anything like that. I believe a man should be able to articulate a sentence and get his point across without using profanity, without using blasphemy, even if it doesn't offend me, as a Marine. But it does offend some people. I'm going to try and keep those values today, but realize that a lot of this today is just opinion. You can have differing opinions. We can still be friends, right? But I'm not going to shy away from my opinions and why I think the way that I do, because, again, a lot of it's based on my training and experience. That may differ for you, but I want to keep it based in reality. All right, first off, SHOT Show. I used to love going to SHOT Show, especially pre-COVID. COVID kind of made it get silly, and they shut it down for a while. But SHOT Show is great. I know a lot of people complain about SHOT Show. I like SHOT Show. I haven't been in a few years, but it's always cool to go around and see the new stuff and handle it. Obviously, right, newsflash, I like guns. I like gun stuff. Now, you guys might know, if you listen for any length of time, that I've been fasting social media for a long time, and that includes YouTube and gun tubers. I try and fast that stuff because, for a lot of reasons, I don't think it's mentally healthy to be consuming social media. Well, one of the things I do is podcasts. Obviously, I like podcasts because I do a podcast. I listen to other people's podcasts. One of the ones I listened to was Outdoor Life, and they were going around talking about this year's trends at SHOT Show. And apparently a big trend is these giant, super long-range computerized optics. If that's a giant trend, okay, well, have fun spending all that money for super expensive optics for the 1% or 2% of people that care about that. I'm not super excited about it. I don't really care. I don't generally like things with batteries and super complicated systems. They almost, maybe back to back or very, very close together, they talked about how these new super long-range, super high-tech, very expensive, very complicated optics are the new hotness. Then they talked about how the thermal trend from last year was dead, a super high-end optic. Almost like there's only a very few people that actually care about that stuff, and the industry can't really support it. Maybe they should market to the majority of people. They're into shooting for practical reasons. Not how much money can I spend to shoot a deer, but how can I practically have a practical tool to put meat on the table for myself and my family. Not what's the best optic to shoot a piece of steel at 1,000 yards when most people live east of the Mississippi and will never be able to go to a 1,000-yard range with any degree of regularity. But a good optic for those people. So from what I hear, not crazy excited about SHOT Show, except for I did hear they came out with the next generation of SCAR, which I love the SCAR. They've modernized it, right? That thing's probably going on 20 years old. It came out back when, quad rails were the brand new thing. So, been around a while. I'm excited to see them upgrade that. Other than that, really not excited about many other things, but there might be some stuff I haven't heard about yet. This thing is only day 2 of the SHOT Show, and I'm not there. Now, let's mosey on over to the next topic, which is going to be mouse calibers. And by mouse calibers, I'm talking, I used to consider 380 a mouse caliber. I don't know that I do. It's right there bridging the gap, but certainly the 25 ACP and the 32 ACP. You might think I would think these are dumb and I hate these. I don't actually think either one of those things. I think they would have real application if they were done practically. Talking about trends I'd like to see, I would like to see actual shootable handguns in these calibers. Like, we have a lot of decent 22 long rifle handguns that are pretty reliable, especially considering they fire 22 long rifle, which is a rim fire, which is not as reliable. And also, they have an exposed protruding rim. They're a rimmed cartridge. So they don't feed as well. It can be done fairly reliably, but they don't feed as well out of a stacked magazine as a semi-rimmed or a rimless cartridge. But there's a lot of really good models, really lightweight, very shootable, like SIG P322, the FN, what is it, like their 509 copy in 22, 522, I don't know the model, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Super good gun, tactical looking, fairly reliable for a 22. Heck, even a Ruger Mark IV series. All of these guns. Well, I'm not saying you should never carry them for defense. My wife, her favorite carry gun is a 22. It's a Smith & Wesson M&P Compact 22. And she'll actually go out and shoot with it and train with it and enjoys it. And to me, that's more important than the caliber. But any of these guns could probably easily be made in 25 ACP. If you look at the numbers, 25 ACP is about as powerful, or maybe a little bit less powerful, than 22 long rifle. But here's the big difference. It's center fire, and it's semi-rimmed, meaning has a very tiny rim. Both of those things would greatly aid in its reliability. So any of those platforms, Smith & Wesson M&P Compact 22 and 25 ACP, lightweight, handy, very shootable, very low recoil, but with the reliability of a center fire semi-rimmed cartridge, that would be amazing. But nobody's doing that. Seems to me there'd be a pretty decent market for that. A lot more people would probably be interested in that after they actually shot it than a $5,000 1,200 yard optic. But I think they would have a place if they were done properly. Now, as it stands now, they're mostly chambered in really old esoteric guns that are really tiny, like an old Colt vest pocket or something. Not super practical, right? But if you could do that, if you could give me a double stack, like Smith & Wesson M&P Compact 22 kind of gun, which is very reliable, again, for a 22, if you could give me that in a 25 ACP, I'd probably take it. I would probably keep the 22 long rifle for a trainer for my wife and get her the exact copy in 25 ACP and say carry it in 25 ACP. Because I'm not super impressed with the ballistics of 25 ACP, but it's on par with 22 long rifle and it's going to be more reliable. And to me, that's more important. Similar thing with 32. Now, I don't think you could get away with chambering a bunch of the 22 long rifles in 32. But if you chambered that in a Glock 19 size gun, I think a lot of people would be a lot more effective with it. I'm not saying it's as good as 9mm. It's not. But if you chambered it in a mid-size, compact-size gun, it would be a lot more shootable, especially for novice shooters that really have a problem with recoil. And, of course, your solution and my solution would be go out and take a bunch of training classes and shoot thousands of rounds of ammo. And that's the better solution, but most people just aren't going to do that. I've been in the industry long enough to know that. So a gun with very mild manners, such as a Glock 19 size gun, H&K VP9 compact size gun with 32 ACP, that would be, I imagine, really pleasant to shoot. Although that's not really what we see. We see it in really tiny, again, esoteric small guns, which kind of defeats the purpose. I don't think those guns are very useful anyway. So that's my thoughts on mouse calibers. It'd be great if they were done properly and brought into the 21st century, but they haven't really been. So is there potential? Yes. Is there really, in guns that are offered today, much reason for them? No, not really. Modern wheel guns. So I try and keep abreast of what you guys, the listeners and the patrons, are interested in. I often do polls. And one of the winners that keeps coming up over and over again in the polls is Revolvers and 357 Magnum and 38 Special. I did a whole episode on this separately recently for the patrons, but it's not my first revolver rodeo. I have in days of yore had very good 357 38 Special revolvers, like Ruger GP100 Match Champion when those came out. Fantastic. And I don't consider myself a gun collector. Some people that have like one gun may consider me a gun collector, but I like guns that I use. And every once in a while I'll go through the collection and I will thin out guns that I just don't use and try and get guns that I do use. And every time I've gotten rid of my revolvers, I've had really good 357 Magnum full-size revolvers in the past. I don't have any now. It's happened more than once. That should say something. And I'm not saying revolvers don't work, right? If you have all the time in the world and or the capacity doesn't really matter, yeah, they're just fine. But I don't know. I don't know when the next violent altercation is going to be. I've been a professional gunfighter pretty much all of my adult life. My primary breadwinning job is a private security contractor. When it actually comes time to do something serious with a handgun, I'm not considering a revolver. I'm just not. And that's why when I go through my stuff, even if it's a really good shooting revolver, very accurate, 357 Magnum super versatile, I'm like, when it comes to your life being on the line and my ability to protect it, I'm not grabbing a revolver. There are better things in the 21st century. That said, I may get one again because it's what you guys are interested in. And I do this podcast to serve you guys. Newsflash, I'm not getting rich off the podcast. That's not the primary reason that I do it. If you want to support the podcast, I appreciate that because you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. But I make more, I think, on one paycheck, a couple of weeks' pay, private security contracting, I think that I make in a year doing the podcast. So I'm not doing it to get rich, guys. I do it to help you guys. That said, I haven't dipped into the Patreon fund in a while. And if that's what you guys are interested in, I may entertain the thought of getting another revolver. Some ones that I would consider would be, let me look, I took some notes today for you guys, actually doing some prep. One of the ones I would consider would be the Smith & Wesson Performance Center large frame 357 Magnum. I think it's scandium. It weighs 30-something ounces. It comes in moss green, which is super tactical, and it comes with the ability to mount an optic on top. It's SKU 1449 if you want to look it up. I probably wouldn't carry this revolver. I'm probably not going to carry a revolver day to day for a full-size fighting handgun. I'm not going to be like, let me get rid of my SIG 226 Legion with an RMR on it and grab a revolver. Probably not doing that. But if you said I had to carry one, like if you like put a gun to my head and said you shall carry a revolver from henceforth, of all the things on the market today, for a carry gun, this is probably the one that I would pick. Now, that being said, that's not a world that I live in. Thankfully, I can shoot modern handguns. Another one that a patron pointed out that's on the list, and I've liked this revolver for a long, long time because I really like its little brother, the 360 P.D. Scandium frame 357 Magnum 11 ounces. One of the revolvers that I do have, and I sometimes will carry when I'm going uber small pocket carry, which is almost never, a couple of times a year maybe. But if I do, 357 Magnum 11 ounces in the pocket is pretty nice. It has a big brother in 44 Magnum. The 329 PD. It weighs 20-something ounces, 44 Magnum. That would be pretty cool. It'd also be cool to hand load for it because I don't know that I want to shoot a bunch of full-powered 44 Magnum through it. And 44 Special is kind of hard to find and expensive, but I could reload for it, and I'm set up for reloading again. That would be something I'd be interested in. Again, probably not going to carry it. What about bear defense? And I've talked about this before, and it probably wins me no favors, but I'm here to help you guys, not tell you what you want to hear. I've lived all over this country. I've lived in coastal Alaska with one of the highest densities of both black bear and brown bear. I'm still more concerned about people behaving badly than bears behaving badly. I've had a couple gnarly encounters with bears over the years. I've had a lot more gnarly encounters with people that want to kill me. Even in places like Alaska. Look at the violent crime rate in Alaska. No, not from bears, from people. I still think that you're most likely to have problems with people way more than bears. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're in coastal Alaska. I don't care if you're where I live, what I consider the Wild West, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, where we have grizzly bear. I still think you're more likely to encounter people behaving badly than bears behaving badly. And if I'm picking a gun for both those things, I'm going to lean towards more effective against people. And there are plenty of people that have been killed carrying big bore revolvers and gotten killed by bears because they didn't get the gun out quick enough because they're hard to carry. They're not fast. And I'm not saying they never work. I'm saying people have been killed carrying full-size revolvers. And again, this will win me no friends from people that love big bore revolvers. I love them too. I got a 454 Casull. It's a lot of fun. But I don't carry it when I'm generally out in the backcountry. I carry it if I have a short-range tag and I'm trying to hunt elk or something. But where was I? People have gotten killed carrying big bore revolvers. They can't get out in time. Show me somebody that has gotten a 9mm semi-auto out with the proper loading, right? Not carrying your 115 grain jacketed hollow points, but carrying proper ammo, like hard cast, heavy for caliber, 9mm that have gotten the gun out and gotten hits on target and it wasn't effective. I can't think of a case. There may be one, but I can think of cases where guys had big bore revolvers and they couldn't get them out on time because they're not fast. They probably don't train a lot with them because they're not fun to shoot a small, light, big bore revolver. They're generally carrying them in something like a chest holster, which is glacially slow to shoot and get out and be effective with. I get that it's a safety blankie. I get that it makes people feel safe, but I don't care about that. I care about what's actually effective. And if I run into a Western Brokeback Mountain version of Deliverance out in the middle of nowhere, I don't want a big bore revolver. I want a semi-auto 9mm and something that I train with all the time. That said, that's a really cool revolver. What is it? A 329 PD, super lightweight scandium 44 Magnum. Would not be very fun to shoot in 44 Magnum, but it can be done. And again, if you put that gun to my head and said, you shall in the backcountry only carry a revolver, and you're in this mythical scenario only going to run into bear and no people that are acting badly, that would be a pretty good one to pick. One, because it's light and I could carry it strong side hip pretty reliably and get it into action quickly. I'm not generally carrying my 7-inch barrel, 9-inch barrel, 454 Casull strong side hip. I'd have to walk with a limp, right? So that's one I'm considering. Very cool gun. And at least it would be cool, right? Which is, I think, a big reason, if we're being honest, that people still carry revolvers in the 21st century because they're cool. That's certainly a cool gun. Some other ones, talking about being cool, really, I think a lot of people carry revolvers for nostalgia. There was a time where you could make the argument that revolvers are more reliable than semi-autos. I don't think you could actually make that argument logically for the past 20 years, right? I've shot plenty of both, right? I'm not new to revolvers. Revolvers malfunction. They break. And I think they do it as much as semi-autos now. And I'm talking a good semi-auto. I'm not talking about your hashtag MeToo Turk nasty clone of a real handgun. I'm talking a real handgun, like a SIG 226 or a Glock, as much as I don't like Glock. But they're reliable. I'm not going to take that away from them. Or an HK VP9 or an whatever. You get the idea. There are a bunch of very, very reliable semi-autos. An actual good semi-auto is as reliable as a good revolver, I think. They do have different kinds of malfunctions, but here's the thing. Most malfunctions on a semi-auto are easy and fast to clear, and you should be practicing that. Most malfunctions on a revolver are catastrophic, and you can't fix them. Like, you ever had your cylinder lock up because you're shooting a lightweight revolver that's really high recoil with a heavy recoiling round, and it pulls the bullet out and your cylinder jams up? Have fun trying to fix that when somebody's trying to kill you or a bear's trying to eat your face, right? So they absolutely do. I don't think you can make that argument. So I think if we're being honest, many people carry revolvers today because they think they're cool. Well, what's a cooler revolver than a Colt Python? They make the Colt Python. They've been out for a few years now, and they're beautiful. I like them. And I actually don't like shiny guns, so I don't actually really like the old shiny ones because I know me and bluing, and we don't play well together. They don't stay shiny for very long around me because I like to use stuff. Well, they make a matte one. They make a 4-inch matte Python. That would be a pretty cool one. I'd probably shoot it from time to time. Probably not going to carry it, right? But it would be a cool gun to have. I like those. Maybe somebody makes an optics mount for the new Python. It certainly seems like you could. I think there used to be a factory option for the old school Python that came from the factory with a scope on it. If they do, in fact, make new mounts for the new Python, that'd be something fun to play around with. But the 4-inch matte Colt Python, that'd be pretty fun. And they make a Target Python. That one's shiny, but at least it's stainless steel. I could probably take some steel wool to it and make it less shiny. But the Target model, because I'd probably mostly be using it just for shooting and having fun. And they also make a new Colt Kodiak. And I've handled one of the old Colt Kodiaks, and I just thought it was a fantastic gun. And they make a new one. Am I going to carry it for grizzly bear defense? No, I'm probably not, right? I've gone through that. But I'm going to have one. I'm going to have a big bore revolver. I'm more likely to carry that for actual something other than my 454 Casull. Again, I love shooting the 454 Casull. Carrying it, not so much. So anyway, those are some thoughts on some new revolvers that are out that are pretty cool. And again, I do still sometimes carry my J-frame. For some reason, I just have never, and I've tried several times, I just can't get a small semi-auto that fits in a pocket and carries in a pocket as easily as my little J-frame Scandium 357. So I still think revolvers have a place there. A full-size revolver, look at the weight of some of these. Like a medium-sized 357, 6-round capacity, maybe 7 if you want to get spicy, a whole 7 rounds. They weigh as much, generally, as my SIG 226, which is 18 round? 18 plus 1 round with an RMR on it. So what a better trigger pull because it's single action only. So what am I doing? Again, you're carrying because you think it's cool, I think. And all of those are pretty cool revolvers. So if I'm going to get one, might as well get a cool one. So those are my thoughts. Oh, one other thing, and I want to give credit where it's due because I heard them talking about a bunch of suppressors, which I generally don't care about. But they were talking about this on Outdoor Life podcast, so I want to give them credit. But they were talking about there's probably going to be a bunch of cheap suppressors. This is not to do with SHOT Show. It's because the $200 tax stamp went away. And people probably in the past weren't going to spend $50 for a suppressor when they had to buy a $200 tax stamp. Now that there is no tax stamp, you might see that. Suppressors, guys, you might find, and there's always the guys that want the latest and greatest, super, unobtainium, mithril, coated, super backflow, mega fantastic can that costs $1,200. Cool. There's going to be plenty of suppressors for those guys. But I know my way around a suppressor too. They're a super simple machine. They've been out since the 1800s. It's a tube with baffles in it. You could probably make one for $30 and sell it for $40. Oh, I forgot about post-COVID inflation. You could probably make one for $40 and sell it for $50 or $60 and make a profit. That's a pretty decent profit margin. So I don't think suppressors are generally good for anything, but they are sometimes good for some things. There is every once in a while that niche application like it's legal to shoot where you are and you want to shoot a couple groundhogs in your backyard, but you don't want to wake your neighbors up. And the groundhogs are up at 5:30 in the morning and you're up at 5:30 in the morning. And it's totally legal. You just don't want to be a pest to your neighbors. So yeah, in a scenario like that where you can screw a $40, $50 can on your 1022 and take care of some groundhogs, there is some application there. And it's not a bad thing if we see a bunch of, sub $100 suppressors. That would be great. I don't think they should be regulated at all. I'm glad the tax stamp went away, even if I generally don't like suppressors because I don't like cleaning them, I don't like messing with them. I think the added weight and length on the extra end of the gun is kind of retarded when I could just put in a pair of 25-cent foamies, right? If I'm shooting at something, it's fixing to be dead, so I don't really care what it hears. Again, I know my way around a suppressor. I'm not against them. I just think in general they're not worth it. Even if they didn't have any regulation and they were $40, I still generally wouldn't bother with them. But every once in a while, there's an application. So I'm excited to see hopefully we'll see a whole bunch of cheap suppressors coming out. Hopefully you'll see a bunch of mom and pop 3D printed suppressor companies coming out just making cheap suppressors. And you spend $50 on it and you shoot it a bunch. If it breaks, and you throw it away and buy a new one. The way suppressors should be. Be nice to have suppressor vending machines in gun stores. That'd be great. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Just some random thoughts. I know it was kind of all over the place, but these were all things I've been thinking about today, and I wanted to get them out before I forgot about them. People, I think, often wonder, like, how do you have so many ideas for episodes? I've been generally doing a podcast most weekdays for years. In general, the problem is not ideas. The problem is time to get them out and edit them and schedule them and all the other stuff. The problem is time. By God's grace, I got a big enough brain to think of episodes, not a lot of time. And you guys help out with that a lot. Patreon helps out with that a lot because there's ongoing chats in there about gun stuff. So I kind of got my ear to the ground, even without social media, about what people are thinking about, talking about, curious about. So if you want to be part of that community, consider becoming a patron. Help me help you. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all that you do. Talking about appreciating you guys and giving you some value, tactical tip of the day. If you are going to shoot something that gets really nasty, whether it be a firearm or a suppressor, one of the things you can use, because if you've ever had to clean a really nasty suppressor, it can be a pain in the butt. You could soak it overnight in like CLP, but that's pretty expensive. Something that works pretty good is Simple Green. You can soak a lot of firearms and stuff in Simple Green too. Now, obviously not if there's an optic on it. Obviously not if it's like wood grips. But if you're just like got a really nasty Gen 3 Glock 19, right? Just take it apart in its big pieces, dunk it in a Simple Green, leave it overnight, come back and clean it. You can do the same thing with a suppressor. So Simple Green. Maybe don't do it on like a original Colt single action Army from 1873 that's got, I don't know, whatever old school bluing finish. But on modern firearms that are pretty rugged, Simple Green can be a real time saver. Again, a lot of us have a shortage of time. So Simple Green, that's your tactical tip of the day. Plus, it kind of smells good. So you got to go on a date after you clean all your guns, just dab a little bit on your neck, good to go. Probably the clean stuff, not the stuff with all the lead and mercury on it from after you clean the gun. A double tactical tip, help you get the ladies. All right, but seriously, let's move on to the important part of the episode, the tactical verse of the day. How about from the book of Daniel, the tactical verse of the day? For he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and his works signs and wonders, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever, is my commentary. This is not part of the verse. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever, right? He delivered Daniel from the mouth of the lions. He can deliver you. He can deliver me. He certainly delivered me from the cold hand of death many times, and I'm very thankful for it. He can save you too. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.